Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a 2023 project recap. I always like watching people's project recaps because it's a great way to see all of the things that they've done in a year, and I like taking a look to see what I've done as well, because every year I set goals for myself. Sometimes I meet them in certain areas, sometimes I don't in others, and it's good for me to just take a look at that and see so that I can plan a little bit better going forward. So today we're going to talk about everything that I did in 2023. So in 2023, I released 82 YouTube videos, which is quite a bit. That's more than one a week. I usually strive for one a week, so every Thursday I put up a tutorial or some kind of a video, and then a lot of those extras would be unboxings because I try not to count those as my Thursday tutorials. And then in Christmas I usually do videos like every day for the ornaments, and sometimes I do vlogs and things like that. So 82 total videos for a total of 7.5 million views, which is awesome. And we have new subscribers this year, so we're up to 420,000 subscribers. I think it's actually more. I printed this sheet off at the end of 2023, so that is awesome. So thank you all for subscribing to my channel. If you're watching this video and haven't subscribed yet, you definitely should, because we always have a lot of fun here. All right, let's talk about our craft podcast. Now, I shoot to do one once a month. I have for the last 2 years fallen completely short of that. So last year I decided to go for one every other month, so I was going for 6. I only did 5 craft podcasts, so I'm going to try and be better about that this year. It's already February when I'm filming this, and so I need to film one like ASAP. For my quilting videos, I did 42 different quilty projects. Now, that sounds like a lot, but in my brain it wasn't, because that includes our Sew With Me blocks, which was 12 blocks. We did 12 House of the Month blocks, and then we did 12 So Jolly Quilty ornaments. And so in my brain, those are all like only 3 things, but the way I have to think about it is that each of those is their own individual pattern that has to be designed, written, tested, and then produced. So that's actually quite a large chunk of it. So the Sew With Me quilt is counting as 13 projects because there were 12 individual blocks. There was a finishing for the whole quilt, and then I also did a table topper / tree skirt, which was its own unique pattern as well. And then if you get that full pattern, it also includes a pillow and then a rectangular table runner. And I'm not sure if you noticed this, but the blocks were all the same exact size as the ones from 2022. So you can mix and match those. If you don't like some of the blocks from one of the years, you can pop in a block from one of the other years and it will fit perfectly. So that was 13 of my quilt projects. The next one was our House of the Month. That counted for 12 patterns, and we did January through December. Each of the houses were a little bit different. I used different fabrics for each one, but I know some of you were making just the houses and we're planning to put those together in a full quilt. So if any of you did that, make sure to send me pictures. I would love to see that. And again, that counted as 12 separate patterns. And then the next biggie was my So Jolly Quilty ornaments. Again, 12 separate patterns, 12 designs. Those were a lot of fun, and those are minis, so I think those all finished at around 3.5, 4 inches, somewhere in there. And so they were perfect for ornaments, but you could also put them together in a little mini quilt that you could hang on your wall, which would be a lot of fun as well. But again, each one of those had to be designed and written separately. So it was a lot of work, but for some reason mentally at the end of the year I was thinking I hadn't done that much. But when you think about it as each of those are individual patterns, it's actually quite a bit of work. So it's important for me to see that and give myself credit for that. Otherwise I feel like I dropped the ball in some areas and I just didn't make that many patterns, but really I did make quite a few. And then as far as large quilt pattern releases go, I did 5 large quilts. I usually try to do 6, so one every other month, mainly just for time frames for myself. Also, I don't want to bombard you guys with too much stuff. So I did 5. I love all 5 of them, and they were a lot of fun. So we're going to go through those really quickly. So the first big quilt I released was called Lucky Layercake. That was a free tutorial here on YouTube, and that released in April. That has been such a popular pattern. It, like the name suggests, it uses a layer cake to complete plus some background yardage, and it's so fast and easy to put together, and it just looks so pretty, and I think it would be great really in any color. So you could definitely make it seasonal, or you could even just use a variety of colors and make it super colorful. I did mine using a Nantucket Summer Layer Cake by Camille Ross Kelly. I also pulled in some of her Dwell fabrics because the blues and greens matched really well. But I loved this quilt. It was so much fun, and from all of the comments we've gotten from you, you guys really enjoyed it as well. So I'm thinking about doing some more pre-cut type quilt projects here in the future. So if you're interested in that, leave a comment below letting me know your favorite pre-cut, and I will see if I can come up with a new quilt pattern for it. The next one I released, and this might be one of my all-time favorites, this one was called Liberty, and this was one of my patterns that I released in both quilty format and a cross stitch format. I've had a lot of requests for cross stitch, so I'll cover that in the cross stitch section, but just so you know, I did do a cross stitch version for this Liberty quilt. I also did an extra bonus pillow and table runner for that because I had some leftover pieces from how I made the pinwheels in the quilt, and I didn't want them to go to waste, so make sure you check those out. But that was a lot of fun. We did a sew along. Catching Stitches sponsored a fabric giveaway for it, and so we had a lot of fun with that one. That one was released in May, and so we had plenty of time to get that finished in time for July. I used a beautiful fabric line called Sweet Liberty by Brenda Riddle, which is obviously where I got the quilt name from. It's just a beautiful combination of sort of vintage colors. So it's got pinks and blues and reds, and there is some tan in that as well. And it just really gives you that vintage patriotic feel. For the background, I used a Fig Tree low volume, one of their eyelet prints. It was just a creamy background with really light blue dots. So it wasn't a stark white, but I think it gave it a little bit of extra definition and coziness. That quilt is probably one of my favorites. I love doing patriotic quilts. I do one every year, and so now I have Liberty to add to my collection. The next one was Pumpkinville. Pumpkinville was a lot of fun to do. This one was my first medallion style quilt, and it looks a little bit more complicated than it is. It's actually quite easy to put together, so even if you're a beginner, I think you could probably tackle this quilt. You just need to make sure that your blocks are all trimmed up to size before you start putting that medallion layout together, and you should be good to go. I used a variety of fig tree prints for this. Carrie, again at Catching Stitches, did a kit for me, and I can't remember if we did a giveaway for that one or not, but I do think we did a sew along to go with it, and that was just a lot of fun. Because it's the medallion style, it does finish in a square format. We have a stair rail upstairs that's perfect for displaying quilts, so I always have my seasonal quilts hanging up there, and the square format for Pumpkinville was perfect for that, so it hung over equally on both sides, and Pumpkinville did release in August. The next quilt I released was called Cup of Cheer, and I had been wanting to do a holiday mug quilt probably for a couple years now, and so this was the year that I pulled it all together. And I used some of my ornaments from the previous year, the 12 days of quilty ornaments, as my inspiration. There was a little mug in there, and I thought that would be really cute as a whole quilt, and so I took all of the different designs and put those on the mugs. So the mugs are all different. There's 12 different mugs in there. They're perfect to make as a table runner as well. You could make them into a pillow, but of course I did the full-size quilt. There's a little bit of hand stitching on there that I did for the steam on the mugs, and the pattern does come with a template for that. You could skip that if you don't want to have that. You could even ask your long armor to add some steam coming out with their quilting. That would be really fun. But I went ahead and just did a running stitch using embroidery floss, and I think it looks really, really cute. For that one, I used a variety of Sweetwater Christmas prints. They always do the best Christmas prints, and so I pulled together a variety. Again, Carrie at Catching Stitches did a kit for us for that as well. And she may even have some kits. A lot of them are sold out, but as I'm mentioning these, there may still be some that she has left over. So if you're interested in any of the patterns that you're seeing here that I've mentioned, she has done kits for, definitely check out her website or reach out. She might still have a few left. And then the very last one for 2023 was actually a viewer request, and this was called Biggie Barn Star, and this was using our block number 8 or 9 from our 2023 Sew With Me series. And somebody had asked to do a whole quilt out of it, and I thought, you know what, that is a great block to do that with. A lot of them you could do a whole quilt, but I thought that one would look really good all together in one solid quilt. So we did do it. It comes in 2 different sizes. The pattern has a really big barn star, so it's 1 star, and I think it finishes at 42 inches square, something like that. So it's a good size, perfect for a wall hanging or even a baby quilt. The full size one finishes at 96 by 96, so it's a really good size quilt. That was one of the first quilts that I've made that actually fits on my king size bed and hangs over the edges nicely, and I loved having it on our bed all year. And the Biggie Barn Star quilt is fat quarter friendly, so something to take into consideration. So anyways, that was released in December. That was my last big quilt project for 2023. I I did manage to do a couple other random sewing videos this year. So the first one was a fabric lampshade, which is on this little lamp right here behind me. There was actually no sewing involved, but I counted it in the sewing category because it used fabric and I didn't know where else to put it. So that's what it's in. But that one was released at the beginning of the year, I think around February. And I just had this plain white lamp from IKEA and I wanted it to look cute for my sewing room. And so I thought, you know what, let's cover that with fabric. And it was just, could not have been an easier project. So if you have a lamp like that that's just kind of plain and you're looking to spruce it up a little bit, definitely head back and check that out. In January, I wanted to do something fast and easy and fun to decorate my room for February. And so I released our Quilt As You Go Quilty Hearts. Those were so much fun. And I like projects like that because there's not really any hard and fast rules that you have to follow. You can grab your scraps and just have fun sewing them together. And then I just used pinking shears to cut out the heart shapes. And then I strung them up as a bunting here in my sewing room. And I actually keep it up all year long, even though it was technically made for February, but they're so cute and fun. I love having them hanging in my room. And I had a few requests last year for some other seasons, so maybe we'll do some of that for 2024. So if you'd like to see some other seasonal buntings, let me know, and I'll see if I can add that to my list because those are so fast, they're easy to do, and they're a great stash buster. My next sewing related, it could go in quilting too, but I just put it in sewing, is the Tulip Tote Bag. That was a quilted tote bag and that one was so much fun. I bring that tote bag all over the place. I usually have a knit or crochet project in it and I bring it to our knit groups and all of the ladies love it. It was so much fun. I actually made 3 different versions, so there's 3 of them out there. My daughter has one and a good friend of mine has one and then I have one. That project released in May and it was probably, as far as beginner bags go, that one was a little bit more complicated. I did show you 2 different ways to do zippers in that bag and you can use that technique in any project, not just that bag, but of course I wanted to have something fun to put those zippers in. I used beautiful fabric from Sweetfire Road. It was called Evermore. She designs for Moda Fabrics and it is just such a lovely, beautiful line. And that tulip bag is a great size. It's big enough to fit a really nice size project in it, or a laptop, books, if you're going to the library, anything like that. It would even be a great carry-on bag if you're doing travel because there's zippers all over it, so nothing's gonna fall out, and it's just a really good size. All the information for the sizing and construction and all of that is in the video. It is a free YouTube tutorial here, and then you can of course get the full pattern in my store as well, so definitely check that out if you're interested. For 2024, I'm looking at adding in a few more bag projects. We did so many bags the previous couple of years that I was just kind of getting over it and I wanted to try something new. So last year I focused a little more on the quilting. This year I think I'm gonna try to mix it up a little bit, so we'll have some quilting projects, but I wanna do some more sewing and bag projects as well. And if you have any suggestions on things that you would like to see on this channel for 2024, make sure to leave those in the comments below. I do scroll through all those comments, and so I would love to hear some of your input on what you'd like to see as well. I also did a Quilt As You Go tree topper in the shape of a star. That project was a lot of fun. It sort of goes along with those Quilty Hearts because really you're just taking strips of scrap fabric, sewing them together, cutting them out in that shape, and then for that one I just put 2 right sides together, sewed around it, left a hole in the centers for a stick, and then I just stuffed it with pillow stuffing, and then it made the perfect tree topper. And that project really took probably less than an hour to do, but I had a lot of fun digging through my scraps. And those little projects are so much fun. They aren't demanding, they're great scrap busters, and they don't hardly take any time at all to complete. The other video tutorial I did was my Gauze Stars, and those were really fun, and I wanted a homemade touch to my tree this year, and I had found that multi-layer gauze at one of our local quilt shops, and I thought, what could we do with this? So I brought out my Singer Featherweight for that video and just had a lot of fun sewing that afternoon, and they're so fast and easy, and you can make as many or little, you can make them any size that you want, and they were the perfect way to add a little bit of a homemade cozy feel to our holidays. So if you missed my Gauze Star video, definitely head back and check that one out. For cross stitch projects, I did 24 patterns this year and 24 releases, however you want to look at it. 12 of them were our House of the Month series. I did my best to make the quilty versions match the stitchy versions. They're a little bit different here and there. Obviously, you can be a little bit more detailed in your cross stitching. And so those were a lot of fun. I really enjoyed stitching each new house. Those are very beginner friendly. They're smaller pieces, so they're easy to complete. They're not super overwhelming. They don't use a ton of floss. and so I think for beginners, they're a really good way to get started. There's nothing tricky in them. There's a little bit of back stitching in there and then half stitches, and I did film a tutorial, I'm not sure if it's out yet or not, but on how to do those because it's super easy, and I didn't want that to be the reason why people might not want to do those because they thought it was hard, but it's not hard at all. So you'll see in that video if it's already up or once it releases how to do those. Otherwise, it's straight cross stitch, super easy, and each project only uses a handful of floss, so it's not complicated at all. So House of the Month, there was 12 of those, and then I also did my So Jolly Stitchy ornaments as well. Those are so cute. I think this year's ornaments were one of my favorites. We finished them off in the little tart tins from Fat Quarter Shop, put a little ribbon on top, and they were so cute. Now I did mine with an aqua background because I just wanted to do something different, and I think they turned out adorable and they fit on my tree perfectly. I added some pink ornaments to go on there, and it all just came together so cute. I also did the quilty ones with an aqua background as well, so they match, but you could definitely change out your background to something else if that aqua color is not your vibe. Those projects are definitely beginner friendly. They're super tiny. They finish at less than 3 inches by 3 inches each, more like 2.5 by 2.5 each. They're super fast to stitch. There's nothing complicated in them at all, so definitely give those a try if you're interested in starting with cross stitch. And I am talking about 2023 here, but I do have 2 other years of quilty and stitchy ornaments that you can check out in my store. So if you go to my store and just type in ornaments, they'll all pop up and you can see them. Each year is a little bit of a different theme, so you can choose one you like, but they're all beginner friendly and very fast and easy. To go along with some of the quilt projects that I mentioned, I was also releasing matching cross stitch. So the first one I released was our Liberty cross stitch. It of course matched the quilt. I didn't want to do the whole entire quilt because I just felt like that was a little bit too much. So I just did 1 row of the quilt blocks on there and then wrote the word Liberty on top. I think it turned out really cute. I do have a finishing video for that here on YouTube as well if you're interested. I also released a Pumpkinville cross stitch. That one was a lot of fun. I did the entire quilt on that cross stitch, so it matches perfectly. And then I do have a finishing video for that here on YouTube as well. That one was the first one that took me a little bit longer. It was more stitching. It wasn't difficult. It was just a lot. And I was halfway through thinking, should I have done this whole thing? But by the time I was done, it turned out really fun. And I love having it displayed for fall. And then the finishing for that one was really cute as well. I also released a cross stitch for my Cup of Cheer quilt pattern. That one was probably the most fun I have had. I looked forward to doing each different cup. I did all similar colors to what was on the quilt, so it's really festive and fun. And then I did a cute finishing for that as well. And again, I showed that here on YouTube, so if you want to see how I finished any of those projects, you can just search for that name and the video should pop up for you. And I did release Biggie Barn Star in cross stitch format as well. Again, I tried to use some of the similar colors that were used in the quilt. I used a lot of the colors from the Cup of Cheer cross stitch because I had it, and I like to reuse things that I have, and I figured if you guys did the Cup of Cheer cross stitch, you would still have some of those colors available, and it would be easy for you to do the Biggie Barn Star as well. And going forward, I am going to be trying to release cross stitches that match the quilt patterns. I know not everybody is into both or one or the other, but I have had a lot of requests for that, and so I wanted to make sure that I had both patterns available for those of you who were interested. For knit and crochet, I completed 4 projects, which is pretty good considering that's what I do in my spare time. A lot of pattern writing and things, it just takes up a lot of my time, so I don't have a whole lot of spare time, but I did want to share my finishes with you. So last year on YouTube here, I put out a couple different granny square tutorials. So that resulted in the Granny Star Tote. There are videos here on how to do the 2-tone granny square, the single tone granny square, and then put them all together in that cute tote bag as well. And then I made some more squares that were 2-tone and single color that were larger, and sewed those into an Afghan. So I have a video here on that as well. And both of those projects are actually in our local yarn shop, and they have kits available for both the Afghan and the tote bag that you can purchase. I also released my first easy knit sock pattern, and I did that as a video here on YouTube as well. A lot of people had requested that, and so I wanted to give you something to get you started in socks, especially if you were brand new to knitting, and hopefully take away some of maybe the scary elements of socks, which for me usually is the heel and gusset portion, and just show you how easy that can be. So a lot of you commented that that video was very helpful and you completed your first pair of socks, so so I'm really excited about that. I have had some requests to do a single color because I did change colors in that, and so I'll see if I can put together something like that this year. It is on my list of things to do. And then at Christmas time, I was looking for something fun. We had done crochet pumpkins last year, and I wanted something easy and fun, beginner friendly for this year. So I released a video for crochet ball ornaments, and there's a couple different styles that you can do. There's a lot of things you can do actually with that pattern. And so that got released, and I think I released that in November or maybe December. But that one is super beginner friendly, and I made a bunch of little ball ornaments for my tree. You can make them any size you want, any color you want. They hardly take any time at all. So they're perfect for beginners, and they're perfect for customizing your Christmas decor and just making it look super homey and homemade. And then the last two things I want to mention, and this was actually released the year before, but I'm horrible at marketing my own stuff. So I did want to mention my eCourses. So I have a super beginner how to quilt. It's called Quilting 101 eCourse. I've had a lot of great feedback on it, so that makes me really happy. A lot of you have learned how to quilt using that course. And then I have another course for you to jump into when you're done with that one. That one is called Scrappy Stars, and it has 16 different star blocks in it. Each one is a little bit different, and each one has full video tutorials. You can mix and match them because they're all the same size. You can change up the layout, but it does have a full finishing layout in there as well with instructions on how to put all that together. So each of those courses have step-by-step video instructions. There's also a forum where you can talk back and forth with me and other creators in that course. So it's a lot of fun. So if you have been wanting to learn how to quilt, but you just didn't know where to start, or if you're ready to up your quilting game, of course, I recommend checking out both of those courses. I go into a lot more detail in those courses than I do here on YouTube. On YouTube, I'm usually trying to keep things moving, be quick. Those ones, I take it a little bit slower. I explain all of the things that I'm doing in each step and any tips and tricks that I have along the way. So it's a little bit more like you're sitting here in my sewing room with me, sewing along with me, and we're just having a conversation. So hopefully you are all enjoying those courses. You can get to both of those classes at go.confessionsofahomeschooler.com, and I will link all of the projects that I mentioned in today's video and those eCourses down below the video. So just click the show more button and you can get all of that information there. That was it for my projects for 2023. I hope you enjoyed this project recap video, and if you made any of those projects along with me this past year, make sure to leave that in the comments below. I would love to hear what you enjoyed, what you made. Even if it's still a work in progress, make sure to leave that below as well. That's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me for all of those videos for 2023, and I look forward to all of the fun we're going to have in 2024. It starts seeming like maybe, what is it, my, for the backing and background, for the background on it, and so, bye, have a good day, love you, drive careful, I'll let you know if we do anything for dinner. Guys, I'm filming a video, can you talk in the room?